Hey guys, just thought I'd give you a couple of quick tips here. I wasn't going to record the whole video because it's kind of a timely process, but basically I'm doing spark plugs on my girlfriend's 2006 F-150. Has the 5.4 liter Triton in it. Got a buddy I work with that worked at Ford. He gave me a couple pointers and ended up working for me, so I figured I'd share. These plugs have actually been done before, so that helped a lot. These are auto lights. If they were original, they would have been Motorcraft, but you can see the porcelain is cracked on a couple of them. So the first step is to disconnect your battery. Disconnect the negative, then the positive. Get them out of the way so they're not touching. The next was to unplug the 3 plugs on your ECM. Here's the third one. They just pull this little gray lever back on all 3 of them, unplug them. The ECM is held on by 4 10mm bolts. And then after I pulled that off, I also unbolted the ECM bracket, which is held on by 3 10mm bolts. And I was able to get to all the coils easier that way. The coils are held in by these 7mm head bolts. Those are kind of notorious for breaking off too. So what I do is I put this the ratchet on there and I just kind of break it loose. And in this case, the coil actually rotated a little bit with the bolt. And then I just carefully kept going until the bolt busted free. Sometimes you might have to work it back and forth a little bit. So those came out fine, and then the coil just pulled up and out. Some people may have to remove this crankcase line right here for the valve cover up to the intake. I worked around it because it's kind of a pain to unhook, and I didn't want to break anything. So I got all the coils out. Now, the smart thing to do before you do any of this would be do everything I just said, but then use a blowgun and blow out all the bores of the spark plugs, get all that crap out of there before you try taking the plugs out, because I had a couple of them where the socket didn't want to go on all the way because there was a bunch of crud around the spark plug. If you really want to do your maximum effort to make sure nothing breaks, you know, sometimes it's beyond control. They're going to break anyway. But after you blow it out, you can try and spray some penetrating oil down in there, you know, WD-40, liquid wrench, PB blaster, you name it. A little bit. Don't flood the whole bore, but just a little. And then another key to this is, I know it sounds like it's redundant, but put everything back together and run the truck up to temp. Get the engine warm. That way everything expands a little bit. Okay. So once it's up to temp, then you can take everything back apart again. And I borrowed this from my buddy. He's got a little regulator here. Some people will say to do it by hand. Some people will say to do this, that, the other thing. This is what worked for me. I regulated the air to my 3/8 air impact. Just got a little 33-gallon Craftsman air tank, so nothing too extravagant. Basically what I did is I put, make sure you got plenty of extensions and sockets, by the way. As you can see, I got quite a medley out here. But basically put your spark plug socket down in there, and I actually tapped on the back of the extension with my hammer a bit to make sure it's properly seated. And then what I would do is try to back off the spark plug, and if it wasn't coming, I would regulate it a little bit more air gradually until I saw the socket start to turn. Then I would stop and I would tighten it back up and just work it back and forth until you could feel it gets pretty loose, and then I would back it all the way out. And then after that, you're pretty much in the clear once you get them all out. I've heard a couple people say not to use anti-seize on the threads because they can back out. But I would at least anti-seize this portion here and right here, because these are what gets all carboned up and basically gets coated in carbon, and it kind of gets like expanded because of the carbon. And when you try to take it out, that's when they break. I think I'm probably going to put a tiny little anti-seize on the bottom 2 threads, just so a little bit goes up to the rest of the threads, but I'm not going to drench the thing in it, because I have heard of people's plugs backing out, and that's going to be kind of a pain in the butt to try to diagnose. I believe the torque spec on these is 25 foot-pounds, so I'm going to do that now. Also, I forgot to mention, it's a 9/16 spark plug socket you're going to need, not a 5/8. If you weren't as fortunate as me about getting all the plugs out, I actually planned on them breaking, so I bought this Matco kit from my dealer. Supposed to be for the 3-valve engines, obviously Triton, but show you what it comes with here. If I can get the dang thing open. That's the part number, by the way, BPR4. Haven't really read into how to use it yet, obviously, because I haven't had to, but I want to say this thing ran about 150 bucks, give or take. So auto parts stores you can probably rent these from. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and put the new plugs in. Basically why I'm doing this is not only was it throwing an engine light finally after it was running rough for a couple thousand miles, but it'll backfire, pop, it just runs rough, no power, and as you can see, those plugs were cracked, so I'm hoping that was the issue. As far as the coil pack bolts, these aren't very big. I would probably anti-seize these too for future. I wouldn't go, definitely not any more than 10 foot-pounds on these. I would probably stick in the 120 inch-pounds or less. These things probably torque to like anywhere from 5 to 8 foot-pounds if I had to guess. I don't know the actual spec. I wasn't able to find it. Most people just tighten it up with their 1/4 inch ratchet, but make sure when you get the new plugs in, they're all torqued down. Make sure you put the coil packs in and you can push down on them and hear it click into place before you tighten these down, because if your coil pack's not making good contact with the spark plug, you're not doing any good. It's still going to misfire. So I hope these tips helped you guys out, and good luck.